إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فكشف الله تعالى به الغم وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين من ربه. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الرحمة المهداة وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises belonging to Allah Azza wa Jal, and may the peace and blessings be upon His beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon his family and companions in entirety. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal on this blessed day of Friday, in our days of Eid, in the second day of Ayyam al-Tashriq, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us an ummah that experiences enduring happiness, happiness that survives the difficulties and trials of life and extends to that great moment of joy when we're given entrance into Jannah. Allahumma ameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us an ummah that finds profound happiness in mission, in greater calling, in a greater cause, and that He makes us of those who have a profound understanding of our emotions and how to maximize our experience in this dunya with that. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters, these days, as we mentioned on our day of Eid 2 days ago, are days of celebration. أيام منى أيام أكل وشرب وهذا الكل يحسنه وذكر لله تعالى. أيام أكل وشرب وذكر لله تعالى. These are days of eating, drinking, being with family, celebrating, and celebrating with the remembrance of Allah. And we reflected on this leading up to Eid and during Eid, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how many of the verses of the Qur'an and many of the teachings of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teach us to have a greater sense of purpose in life. I am mission driven. There is a purpose behind my existence in this dunya, and I'm seeking to fulfill that. In every avenue, every facet of my existence, that's what I'm fixated on, focused on. Even when we celebrate the meanings of sacrifice, the meanings of trust in Allah, meanings of gratitude, that's what Eid al-Adha symbolizes. And we reflected a great deal on this. What I thought would be a good follow-up to this is What's our perspectives on joy, happiness? How does happiness carry greater meaning? Or when does it carry greater meaning? How can I understand the two sides of these emotions, happiness on one end and sadness on another end? Is one positive and the other one negative? Are both positive? Or can both be negative? And so on and so forth. What makes you happy? I'm sure our children got very, very happy with their Eid gifts. Money, toys. I'm sure families were happy to enjoy gatherings and go out with each other, spend some quality time. And these are all from al-halal al-tayyib, the beautiful, pleasant things that Islam allows us and encourages us to enjoy. As our Prophet ﷺ told Sayyidina Abu Bakr, as we said, as he saw two young girls singing in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Bakr got so angry. How dare you sing in the presence of the Prophet? They were young girls, young children. And how dare you do this? So the Prophet ﷺ said, hold it right there. Why are you reacting like this? Inna li kulli ummatin Eid wa hadha Eiduna. Take it easy. This is our Eid. This is how we celebrate. This is how we experience this beautiful human emotion that Allah created within us. You know, all of the emotions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created within us are beautiful. All of them are beautiful. They have purpose. There's not a single emotion that's pointless. No, everyone has purpose. Each one could exceed its bounds and turn into something ugly. But by its origin, all of these emotions, they're beautiful human emotions. But what I need to ask myself beyond this, now going back to that issue of mission, that issue of greater calling, this is how I should train my children to think. When we were celebrating Eid, we said, let's not make it an Eid of getting, let's make it an Eid of giving, right? And we encouraged our children, hey, give. You're going to get some gifts today. How about I train my son, my daughter, to learn how to give. Give to the masjid. Give to a greater cause. Do something. You're part of something bigger, right? So, but beyond that, I should start thinking like this and train my children to think like this. Habibi, Habibti, what makes you happy? What piques your interest? You know, if you answer this honestly, it'll speak volumes to how you're living your life. What piques your interest? What gathers your attention? What gets your attention? That shows what matters to you as a person and what you find valuable. What are your priorities? Now, when it comes to us as Muslims, there's this description of this emotion in many ayat of the Quran for many different things. And you know, it's worthwhile to see how the Quran describes joy. One example is that the Quran teaches us to celebrate because of Allah's revelation. Ya ayyuhan nasu, qad ja'atkum maw'izatun min rabbikum wa shifa'un lima fi as-sudur wa hudan wa rahmatan lil mu'minin. Qul bi fadlillahi wa bi rahmatih fabidhalika falyafrahu. You should have a conversation with your son or daughter. My son, my daughter, why should you be happy when you open the Quran and read it? What's there to be happy about when you have access to the words of the Creator of the heavens and the earth? That's one sense of happiness. If someone understands how the Quran could make them happy, they've understood one of those things that could give you enduring happiness. Because one of the things about the emotions of life is when it's about something material, you'll find it's always short-lived. Because material things don't last. You got your Eid gift today. For some kids, within a few hours it got old. Throw it away. Let me play with something new, right? But within a week, it's going to get old. Within a month or a year, it's going to break. That's what happens with material things. And that's why a beautiful teaching moment for your son or daughter, for us, every one of us could think like this too. إذا أردت أن يكون لك عز لا يفنى فلا تستعزن بعز يفنى. If you want an enduring sense of honor, if you want an enduring sense of life, of dignity, if you want that, then make sure that the source of what you're getting your fulfillment from is not something that dies, not something that wanes. That's the power of being happy and joyous about something bigger, something greater. You know, there's another expression of joy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes for the people of Jannah. Look, this, I tell you, some people, we like to talk about happiness on Eid because it's supposed to be a happy occasion. But if we be real about it, sometimes, many times, people are not necessarily very happy about meeting family. Or sometimes meeting family doesn't always trigger happiness. Yes? No? Yes, meeting family does not always trigger happiness, especially when there's discord and conflict. This happens. This is, a reality of dunya. But there's one family gathering that everyone's going to be happy about. Look, the Quran says this. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا وَيَنْقَلِبُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. That's a beautiful family gathering. Why? Because all distractions aside, because sometimes material things or temporary worldly realities, they cause distractions. They ruin happiness. Sometimes they cause clutter. They distract you away from what's really important. Someone came to the family gathering in a bad mood and everyone was soured because of how they were acting. No, forget all those. In the akhirah, you won't have that. فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا وَيَنْقَلِبُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. One of the forms of joy for the people of Jannah is when they're in Jannah, not just by themselves, with their families. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. That's a beautiful human experience. That's something that lasts. And if you were to add to this, there is this sense in our deen that true happiness comes from hard work. And this is something for our children to consider, especially with summer here. True happiness comes when you pour yourself into something. You exhaust yourself. You sacrifice so much to get something. That causes a different type of happiness. Parents experience this. When you're growing up, your joy in Eid is for yourself. But when you have children, your joy in Eid is when you make all kinds of sacrifices. You spend, Allahu Alam, how much to give this person a gift, that person a gift, and that person a gift. Why? Because you just want to see the surur and the happiness on your young people's face, the children in your home's face. Your children, your nephews, your cousins, and so on and so forth. You want to see happiness on other people's face. That's another sense of happiness. Exhaustion could cause happiness, believe it or not. Exhaustion could cause a lot of happiness when it comes from your hard work. Do we have any experience with this from our deen? Yes. Look at how our deen teaches us to think. لِلصَّائِمِ فرحتان فرحة حين يفطر وفرحة حين يلقى ربه. Tell this to your son or daughter when they're so frustrated because they're not having fun. Look at how Islam teaches you. The most happiness you'll feel in your life is when you work hard for something and you sacrifice and then you have a grand reward waiting for you. That's what we learn from Siyam. Siyam, when you fast for a full month, you'll have a moment of happiness when you break your fast. But the bigger moment of happiness is when you meet Allah Azza wa Jal. Happiness in exhaustion. Brothers and sisters, the examples go on and on. All of these direct us back to this reality of experiencing emotions on a different level. And this could even elevate all of us. Even sadness, when you think about it. Sadness, when you think about it, could do the same thing. If I start thinking about my emotions like this, maybe, just maybe, even the way I think about life will change. Is sadness bad? Is huzn from the shaitan? It can be. Or it could be something profoundly good. It could be something profoundly good. What should make me sad and what shouldn't? What should I cry over? for a whole lot of time, and what shouldn't I really give much time share from my life? What must make me sad? When is sadness constructive? When is it destructive? Right? We know the Prophet ﷺ was sad on many occasions throughout his life. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Prophet ﷺ was happy. And when he would get happy, the hadith mentions this, the Prophet ﷺ, when he would smile and he would be happy, his face would light up, as they say. كَالْقَمَرِ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ. The Prophet ﷺ's face would light up like the moon on the night of a full moon. You see it bright, shining. You see, Iman generally causes a great sense of joy and euphoria. When some people think of happiness, you know what they think of? They think of, pheromones and oxytocin, right? What makes people happy? Oxytocin. That's what makes people happy, right? But for the moment, it's so much more than that. Think about the Prophet ﷺ when he was in the middle of his hijrah. Brothers, تقدموا إلى الأمام. افسحوا يفسح الله لكم. If you see any space in front of you, please fill it in. جزاكم الله خير. Think about the Prophet ﷺ in his hijrah. When he was being pursued and he was hiding in a cave. Think of this. This isn't any lavish reality that's full of indulgence. This isn't any of that. No. But guess what? Those people who have a lot of lavish things and indulge in a whole lot aren't necessarily happy. And this is why I need to think like this. Material things don't produce happiness. They can assist, yes. No one should want heartache for themselves. They can assist and aid, like the Prophet ﷺ says, نِعْمَ الْمَالِ الصَّالِحِ لِلرَّجُلِ الصَّالِحِ. When wealth is used in a good way, it could produce a whole lot of happiness. And this is a big ni'mah. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. But material things in themselves don't necessarily produce happiness. The Prophet ﷺ pursued in a cave, kicked out by his own people. They wanted to execute him. And he's in this cave telling Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا. Don't be sad. Abu Bakr was sad. The Prophet ﷺ was happy. Because the Prophet ﷺ could see what's beyond this. Sometimes when you can't see things for what they really are, it clouds your judgment. It makes you sad even though you should really be happy. Because some people, when they experience things in life, they see the surface level of what's in front of them. But the mu'min looks to what's beyond that. يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings life from the lifeless. But when it's lifeless, sometimes people see what's there. It's barren, there's nothing. Oh my God, no hope. But Allah brings life from beyond that. Think about that. That's a different eye and a lens to view things in life through. He's telling his companion, don't be sad. Allah is with us. Allah is with us. That's a different sense of joy. In this dunya, this is something that could carry on with you, because you know what? If the joy is just about the material, it'll only last as long as the material lasts. But when the joy is about mission, something bigger, even when you're in the most dark, in the darkest situations of your reality, your heart's connected with Allah, those realities will not faze you. They won't affect you. They won't deter you. Inna Allaha ma'ana. Allah is with us. And you know, this is the same sense that the Prophet ﷺ, or the Quran I should say, tells us, أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Those who are true awliya of Allah, those who are near and dear, beloved to Allah, should not. They still will feel sad at certain points, but they should not feel sad. And they should not feel afraid. See, was the Prophet ﷺ sad? When was he sad? He was sad in many different instances. He was told not to be sad, yet he still was sad. He was sad when he lost his son. He was sad when he lost his son. One of the most tragic, difficult things for a parent to have to deal with. To have to bury their son or daughter. That's very difficult. And there's no way to shake off that human emotion if you're that person who has to deal with that. When one of the companions saw the Prophet ﷺ crying when the children of one of his daughters passed away, he was crying and he was actually making a sound as he was crying. They asked the Prophet ﷺ, "Oh Prophet, what is this? Why are you crying like this?" The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّهَا رَحْمَةٌ جَعَلَهَا اللَّهُ فِي قُلُوبِ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. This is a rahmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes. This is mercy. Crying in this sense is mercy. When you see someone going through something tough and it doesn't make you sad, that doesn't mean you're strong. That means you're heartless. If someone can't experience their natural human emotions, that means there's something deeply wrong with them. Yes. If someone can never come to terms with expressing their emotions, they can't feel sadness, they'll never express sadness, they'll never allow someone to see them shed a tear, that means that this person is someone who is severely emotionally wounded, or their humanity is severely mutilated. Their humanity is severely mutilated. That could happen. The heart could become so coarse or rigid. It happens to either reasons. Either the person's been emotionally wounded too many times and they'll never allow someone to see them as vulnerable. I'll never let someone see me as a vulnerable human being because I've done this before and it hurt me really bad. That's one reason. The other reason is the person's done such awful things throughout their life, their hearts become so tough, and their hearts are dark, they can't experience that sadness. It's good to experience sadness when you need to be sad. Like at loss of life. That's a situation where we're encouraged to even try to help someone who can't cry when they lost someone near and dear to them to cry. Yeah, sometimes crying could be a source of profound healing. Yes, it could be. And sometimes, when it exceeds its bounds, it could be something very devastating. When sadness turns to despair, it could cause all kinds of damage. And when joy turns to false hope, it could just cause as much damage as that. You see, there's this balance of emotions that our deen wants us to experience. Yeah, when joy turns to false hopes, right? Someone's so fixated on themselves being forgiven. Oh, Allah's going to forgive me, no matter what I do. Right? And even if I don't do anything to prove it, or to aid that, or to assist, I'm going to be forgiven. Yes, I'm very hopeful. This is false hopes. These are false hopes. And on the other end, when sadness turns to despair, it could be very crippling. Very crippling. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to experience this reality with such balance. One of the things that the people of Jannah will celebrate, they'll celebrate the fact that the reasons for sadness, by the way, there's no sadness in Jannah. There's no sadness in Jannah. That's it. It's gone. That human emotion is no longer necessary in Jannah. The people of Jannah will say it. The people of Jannah, what do they say? People of Jannah, وَقَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي أَذْهَبَ عَنَّا الْحَزَنِ. Now, what's hazan? We know huzn. Huzn is normal sadness. Hazan is something more than that. It's when sadness is rooted in deep affliction, shiddah, difficulty, trials. Allah will remove those trials and will remove the sadness that comes along with that affliction. When you think about it, you see there's so much to consider with what makes you happy. What makes you happy? Let's go back to that. You know what made the companions profoundly happy? The thought of being with the Prophet ﷺ. The thought of being with the Prophet ﷺ did wonders in making the companions extremely happy. What are examples of this? A man came to the Prophet ﷺ. أتى رجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فسأله متى الساعة? When is the hour? He asked the Prophet as he was giving a khutbah, when is the hour? So then the Prophet ﷺ kept going, and then after a while called him back. He said, where's the questioner? About when is the hour, when's the day of judgment? He said, what have you prepared for it? مَا أَعْدَدْتَ لَهَا. What have you prepared for it? The man said, I haven't prepared much, except one thing. I love Allah and His Prophet. So then the Prophet ﷺ said, أَنْتَ مَعَ مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You're going to be with those whom you love. And the hadith goes on to tell us, in the Anas he says, there was no hadith, no statement of the Prophet that made the companions more happy or happier than when they heard the Prophet ﷺ say, you're going to be with those whom you love, right? Another sense of happiness. Why should I be happy if I'm with the Prophet ﷺ? The only way I'll be able to answer that is if I know the Prophet. Who's the Prophet to me? How special, how coveted, how dear is he to my heart? Abu Bakr can tell you. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha wa an abiha, when she saw that Abu Bakr, when she saw her father receive news that he's going to go with the Prophet ﷺ on the hijrah, he started crying. Right? Sometimes you might cry because you're sad, but other times you could cry because you're really happy. She said, I never knew that someone could cry from being so happy until I saw my father cry the way he cried. Right? Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Human emotions, brothers and sisters, are beautiful when they're experienced the right way. Let's think of that as we're in these days of Eid. Let's think about that. Human emotions are profoundly beautiful when they're experienced the right way. When they're connected with something bigger, something that's more than the material, and when they're within a beautiful balance between sadness and happiness, not going to extremes to either side. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us enduring happiness that extends beyond this dunya into our akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and our children and our progeny true happiness in Jannah. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وعلى أصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, we were saying that sadness is not necessarily a bad thing. Actually, it could be a profoundly good thing. Especially when I experience sadness when I'm supposed to experience it. And this is one of the scholars, he says, يُحْمَدُ فِي الْحُزْنِ سَبَبُهُ وَمَصْدَرُهُ وَلَازِمُهُ لَا لِذَاتِهِ. Right? We don't seek sadness in itself. But what might make it worthwhile is if it comes for something worthwhile. He says, فَإِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِمَّا أَنْ يَحْزَنَ عَلَى تَفْرِيطِهِ وَتَقْصِيرِهِ فِي خِدْمَةِ رَبِّهِ وَعُبُودِيَّتِهِ وَإِمَّا أَنْ يَحْزَنَ عَلَى تَوَرُّطِهِ فِي مُخَالَفَتِهِ وَمَعْصِيَتِهِ. And he goes on to say, there's other causes for huzn. You might be so sad because of your negligence, so sad because of you falling into something very regretful. I'll add another cause to his. وَإِمَّا أَنْ يَحْزَنَ الْمُؤْمِنِ على حال عباد الله عز وجل وعلى ما نزل بهم من الكروب والبلاء في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. This is an important form of sadness that the mu'min needs to feel, because if the mu'min doesn't feel this, he's not really part of that bigger body of believers. The mu'min, I need to teach my son this. Hey, you know what? Tell Habibi, I'm going to go tell my son this today. When I go home, we're celebrating Eid. Don't ever forget that on the other side of the world, many different places, there are those who aren't able to enjoy the joy that you're feeling. And Habibi, that should make you sad. You should feel sad because of your brothers and sisters in Palestine. or your brothers and sisters in Sudan, or your brothers and sisters in Syria, or those who are still afflicted in Turkey by the earthquake, or those who are in Yemen, or those who are wrongfully imprisoned in different parts of the Muslim world, or wherever, that should make you sad. That should because those who don't have concern for the affairs of those afflicted from the believers is not from them. الذي لا يهتم بأمر المسلمين ليس منهم. So me being part of the body of believers means that whatever afflicts this body should cause an emotion. Now, of course, it should not stop at sadness, because if it did, it'd lead to depression. But that sadness should empower me. That's the thing about emotions, right? That's the thing about emotions. We don't seek the emotion in itself. We seek it for a behavior that should come after it, right? Don't seek the joy in itself. Don't seek it for that. Tell your son or daughter this, because some people, they waste their lives away. I'm looking for a feeling. They chase it, I don't know why. Nothing's making me feel fulfilled. No matter what I try to do. I got married, I don't feel fulfilled. I have a child, I don't feel fulfilled. I got a job, I don't feel fulfilled. Some people, when you chase the emotions, you'll be chasing something that you can't get. No, what's behind the emotion? It's a behavior. It's a behavior. Sadness needs to translate, it needs to go into this machine, right, of yours, the soul, and it needs to produce a behavior, a reaction, a positive reaction, right? Now, in the masjid today, we have an opportunity, not a fundraiser, don't be sad, right? Some people are sad by fundraisers. So anyway, no, not a fundraiser, not an official one, but you have an opportunity to give to your brothers and sisters in Sudan. It is a fundraiser. It is a fundraiser, right? So we're gonna have a fundraiser, and you could give through the kiosks, right? So to our brothers, what's going on in Sudan? What's happening there? It's been an area that's been afflicted for many years, war-torn region, a lot of conflicting, quarreling parties, and the product of this is millions and millions and millions of people who are in need of aid and assistance and who are refugees. Brothers and sisters, make sure that you support our brothers and sisters in Sudan. Because as we're experiencing our joy of Eid in these days of Ayyam al-Tashriq, there are people who don't have meat on their table, not for a week, not for a month, not for a year, not ever. Some people never have meat on their table. Whereas we could buy every form of meat that we want and eat a few bites from the plate and throw out the rest and buy another one tomorrow. This is the condition of many people, many Muslims in this country. Many people who are enjoying the luxuries of this. The bill for that, I'm not talking about your dinner bill. The bill for that is, if you're someone who has, make sure you don't forget those who don't have. So our brothers and sisters, again, there's around 24 million people who are in need of aid and assistance of different kind, medical, food, and other. So make sure, because we are one ummah. We're one ummah. Make sure that you support this type of cause and that you experience the necessary human emotion that comes along with that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better us and allow us to experience the wholesome aspects of our humanity with the full range of our emotions in a very constructive, in a very fulfilling way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better the condition of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the east and west. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma fir lana warhamna. وعافنا واعف عنا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا اللهم اغفر لصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا اللهم من احييته منا فاحيه على الايمان ومن امته منا فامته على الاسلام اللهم اجعل خير عمرنا اخره واجعل خير عملنا خواتمه واجعل خير ايامنا يوم نلقاك فيه وانت راض عنا امين امين واقم الصلاه.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا يرحمني يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر ولله الحمد. Before leaving, brothers and sisters, inshallah, today is inshallah dedicated for supporting our people in Sudan. So please, if you leave and if you are in rush, please go to the office and support your people and your brothers and sisters.